Quick disclaimer before the video starts. This is me post-editing, by the way. I went into this project not knowing anything just about any immigrants or refugees in Colorado, and all this information based on mostly observation, very little internet research, just my interviews as well. But keep that in mind. I definitely missed or didn't go into a lot of things when starting this project and completing it. There's a lot more that I could have done and didn't have the time to, but still hope you guys enjoy this video. Okay, thanks. Foreigners from all over the world who come to the United States for refuge and better opportunities seem to be flooding in with no explanation. Foreign people, refugees, and immigrants seem to be looking for jobs and housing all over, just trying to survive. But from what I've observed, with little research and some field experience, interviews and observations, immigrants and refugees in Aurora, Colorado are one of the many communities in the city who are struggling to find a place to stay, a school for their children to attend, and even food to eat on some occasions. I started this observative process with an open mind to whatever I discover about the community/group of people. Some of the common struggles I discovered amongst the community were lack of employment opportunities, food insecurity, social imperceptibility, and living/education accessibility. As I stated before, I had very little background knowledge and experience with this subject, but I found it to be eye-catching and interesting for me to investigate. Before researching and going on field explorations to gain more insight on the immigrant and refugee population in Aurora, all that I thought I knew was a bunch of American citizens strongly disagreed with them being in America. Those same individuals believed they came to America to reap the benefits of the government assistance. From my encounters with very political individuals, people on public transit, and even some of my own family members, I learned that they think immigrants and refugees are receiving more than enough assistance from the government. After conducting a few interviews and observing the immigrant/refugee population in Aurora for about a month, I came to a different conclusion. I can't have my phone off, 'cause I just need to know I'm not far from it. Fun fact, my observation actually started with an interview. I wanted an expert's opinion on where would be the best places in Aurora to visit so I could observe immigrants and refugees a bit easier. I spent about a week making time to visit different organizations from Google Maps that looked quite promising. I took the bus for an hour and a half to get to one of these help centers. This one in particular was quite confusing. My friend and I looked around aimlessly, not knowing where to go to find this center. Even knocking at the door of the alleged immigrant/refugee supporters, we got no answer. The next week, I drove over to what Google Maps said was an immigration assistance center near Cherry Creek.
Hi, I'm Broj, or Broj. I am going to investigate / research refugees and immigration in Aurora, Colorado. I'm about to head inside.
The building was more like an office building. I looked around for like 15 minutes. Fortunately, I could not find the center. I don't know why. So, on to the next location. The only thing I could find there was a coffee shop. I left disappointed and headed to the next location. This one is on Havana. It looked much less promising than the last two. After getting a bit lost and ending up at the wrong part of the plaza, went to the wrong place. I got directed to the right place on the way. I rang the doorbell of the Rocky Mountain Welcome Center. I met Miss Diana. Diana is the executive director and founder of the organization. She was a goldmine I wanted to interview.
Couldn't record, but found out a lot of the immigrant and migration / refugee shelters were shut down for some reason, all over the city actually. So scheduled an appointment for Friday to talk to the lady again. This time I'll be able to record and ask more questions, but until next time, I guess.
Something I forgot to mention in the post-meeting comments, she gave me 2 locations to go to, those being a Home Depot and Dayton Colfax, so I went.
Okay, so it is now Wednesday. I'm at Home Depot. It is currently 4:54. The lady that I talked to told me to come here at 5 in the morning. I am a bit earlier and I don't see anyone looking for jobs. I know that sounds racist, but it'll all make sense. I'm gonna go drive around. Okay, so I'm around the back of the store now. I said 5 in the morning. It's about 4:58. My apologies. But there's nothing here. Hopefully if I stick around, I'm able to find or observe anyone. Genuinely hoping that guy didn't see me recording him. Oh man, that'd be embarrassing. I've officially been here for about an hour, and some change. So far, I think I've only gathered maybe 2 immigrant or refugees, 4 homeless people. They don't look homeless from what I've observed. Aurora, they look like they are waiting for something. Like them. There's a guy right in front of me waiting at a light post thingy, or a parking lot street light thing. Just waiting, just standing there. 2 more people just showed up to the exact same spot. He was the first guy to be picked up for work. That same guy has been standing there for over 45 minutes. Got my dude Eduardo driving me around. We're at Colfax and Dayton. Maybe go check out some black people. I'm at Immigrants.
You can't really tell, but there's actually 2 groups. There's a Hispanic-looking group and an African-looking group. I would say African-American, but I don't want to assume that they are American or not, so I'm just going to say African. Anyways, there's 2 different groups, and they're separated seemingly by race and the sidewalk. They just don't interact with each other whatsoever the entire time. But I did some interviews to gain a better perspective on the matter. Can you start with who you are and your occupation?
Okay, I'm Diana Higuera. I am the Executive Director of the Rocky Mountain Welcome Center.
Can you tell me about your immigrating experience?
Yeah, for me, it was fairly easy. I came to do my master's degree at the University of Denver. I met my husband in my first class, and we got married. However, it was easy because the path that I came, I came by plane. had my visa, I had my social security as soon as I came, being a student. I didn't have option to do work study because my status. I paid taxes, but I couldn't get any of the benefits of paying taxes. The international house at DU at that time was helping more American students going out than international students coming in. So at that time I lobbied all the departments at DU to have a committee, like a welcoming committee for international students. So most of the big schools created like a buddy program where you partner American students with international students, because there were some international students sleeping in like at the airport because they didn't know how to come or how to dial phone to contact someone to pick them up at the airport. Or you have students sleeping the first nights in the classrooms at DU because they came too late, and the apartment where they got, no one was there to give them the key for the apartment. And the apartments are, I slept the first month on the floor because I didn't know the apartment didn't come furnished. So, you know, as an international student, you don't come and see how the DU is. You just see the city, see the program. This is the program I want, and you come, and then you don't know all what you don't know. So
the lack of communication.
I think they give it for granted. You know, like it was when I was trying to get a roommate. The apartment was like, oh yeah, get in this website and you find a roommate. And I'm like, how do I know if this is not like a serial killer or something? You know, as international students, you just don't know anything. So you don't trust. And I was lucky enough that it was a student from Argentina in the same department. And with all that and all the help, still, you know, I remember sitting in that apartment and it's like, what have I done? Like, this is the worst mistake I ever done coming to this country, because it was so different and so weird that I thought at that time that was a mistake. And I came with all the help.
Do you regret coming to America?
No.
Are there any stereotypes that you know of that are, I guess, inflicted on immigrants and refugees? And can you debunk them?
Oh, yeah. A lot of, with all the rhetoric that we have been hearing during election time, that immigrants are robbers and rapists, and that they are lazy, that they're coming here to take the assistance. That a lot of people think that all the immigrants are coming and getting benefits, and it is a lie. They don't qualify for any benefit whatsoever.
Why is that?
Because you need to be a citizen to get benefits, or at least a resident, and they don't. They even if they come with status, like I was, being a student, you don't qualify for any of the benefits. So I think that immigrants are normally, and it's funny because also people think that where there are immigrants is insecure, and because it's going to be all robbers, and the statistics show that where immigrants are the most secure parts of the city. And that is because immigrants and refugees normally come from places where it's not secure. So what they want is to live in a secure place. They are going away from wars, from persecution, or for hunger, and they're very hard workers. They say, a lot of people think that they're lazy, and no, they are very, very hard workers. And one of the things that people don't think about is that these people cannot go back, so they have to succeed. They don't have a choice.
To your knowledge, has the city of Aurora, Colorado, assisted the migration and refugee population in a way that is impactful to their well-being?
The government, the city of Aurora, the city council has been very, I wouldn't say the whole city council, but some people in the city council have been very vocal about Aurora not being a city open to immigrants. However, the city of Aurora is one of the only cities in the United States that have an immigrant integration plan. And the city of Aurora has a department that is the Office of International and Immigrant Affairs, and has full-time, I don't know how many people working in that office since the last over 10 years. And they provide with funding to different organizations, to different nonprofits to do different programming towards integration. They're probably not the programs that you're gonna see of basic needs, but they do provide funding for programs like studying for your citizenship test, English classes. There are a lot of great programs that the city of Aurora is funding through that office. And those are all programs towards integration. And Aurora is one of the most diverse cities in the US. One of the cities has had more immigrants per capita in the US.
Do you think migrating people and refugees are receiving enough assistance in Aurora?
That's a hard question. It is hard to have a balance between the assistance that you provide to the people, between the right assistance and the needed assistance, right? It is hard. You don't want people to take advantage and, tell them, let's say in housing, we're going to give you 6 months. Is 6 months enough to get them in their feet, or is that too much, too little? It is very hard, and you don't want people to take advantage of it. The city of Aurora has not given migrants any money towards basic needs. City of Denver has. I don't know if ever is enough. Also because if you give, then people keep coming.
True.
So do you want to open that influx of people and not being able to close it? It is a very hard question, because you want to be open to people in need, but you don't want to be attracting people to come because we don't have enough for our own people. So how, as a government, I see the hardship on how do you give, like we already have people that are unhoused, right? So do you give to our people that are unhoused, or do you give to the migrants? Or do you give to both, and when is it fair to give to one or to the other? So those are a lot of hard questions that governments have to decide on how to give. And when the city of Denver gave help to all the migrants coming, had to get the money out of somewhere. So they were a lot of budgets that they had to cut that were helping citizens to help migrants. So it's a lot of things that you need to think about when you give help. And then when you help one, 50 more will come. So do you want to attract people coming here when you don't have enough to give to your own people?
How could a civilian or bystander in Aurora help assist our refugee and immigration population?
There's several ways that you can help. Colorado Gives Day is coming, right? So give the organization you believe in, that you think they're doing a good job, and support them with money. If you don't have money, support them with your time. See what volunteer opportunities they have. See if someone is doing a drive, like we're doing a coat drive, and give coats that you're not using to that coat drive. If you have jobs that people can do at your house, raking leaves, painting your house, things like that you can give an immigrant the chance to work at your house. Give them that. Give them the opportunity to work. People want to work. Nobody comes to another country wanted to be a dependent of the government. Everybody wants to work. So if you have the opportunity to give that, give that. If you have other gifts in terms of other skills that you can provide to an organization, give them the opportunity to use your skills.
Okay. Wow. Do you have anything else you would like to say to the
camera?
Yeah.
Oops. Let me see.
Okay, let's start with who you are.
My name is Lani Singh.
Where are you from?
I'm from Thailand/Burma, but I mainly grew up in Thailand. In which case, I would be a refugee, but I am an immigrant because I moved to the United States to seek a better life.
How old were you when you immigrated to the U.S.?
I would have been 6, but my family accidentally took a detour to China, so we had to take another detour to the United States. In this case, I was 7 when I moved to the United States, so I've been living here for 10 years.
Why did your family come to the U.S.?
Well, my family and I came to the U.S. to seek a better life, but more importantly, because we were struggling at the time, both economically and emotionally, because we just recently lost a family member and feel like we would have a better way of living and not suffer as much diseases, because we used to live in the jungle area of Thailand, which did have prone to diseases and such, which is why we moved to the United States.
Okay. Do you remember what your family went through, or do you remember any struggle migrating to the U.S.?
Well, the only struggle we did have was trying to speak English, because we all only knew Korean because that was our main language, as we are a subgroup of ethnicity of Thai people, which are called Karen/Kareni, but we come from the Karen direct.
What was the process? How was the immigrating system process?
Well, it was kind of hard because it didn't take that long, but it was more over we weren't used to this area and we were scared. We didn't know what to do, and we just had to trust our caretakers, because the immigration system is not really that great. It is kind of just all over the place, right? And it feels very rushed.
Can you go more into that?
You see, me and my mother and my father at the time were in the process of moving to states, but we didn't know which state. But the officers there, they didn't really help us, as to say, because we could barely understand them, and even the translator, they tried their best, but it was still hard to understand because we didn't know any customs or cultures or any of that stuff. So it was really hard just trying to see where we wanted to live, and we didn't have that much help, and we were just trying to inch our way closer and closer until one of us finally understood English.
Did you struggle to adjust to the American society when you migrated?
No, because I at the time was a child per se, because I was only 7, so in a way and in a sense I did not even know my culture that much, and to this day I am a 4th generation, so I still struggle to this day with reconnecting to my ethnicity, because I feel like I've been whitewashed, or in a sense colonized, in the sense that I know more about American culture than my own culture.
Does that make you feel do you ever get imposter syndrome because of it?
No, because I feel like I'm more with Americans than my own race. Yes, I am a dual citizen of Thailand and Burma, but I feel as if I'm technically not even them, which is a textbook case of imposter syndrome, but I don't feel as if it affects me that much as it does other people, because it's just the fact that I never knew what Thailand was like because I wasn't raised there, since I was raised by the American dreams and ideologies of such.
Did your parents ever do they ever make comments on?
No, you see, they much rather me live out as an Americanized Asian than reconnecting with my heritage. Even though I do have some heritage heirlooms that I've been given.
Why is that?
Because we escaped in a time where it was very dark for the country. So like, I think they have some sort of, let's just say, trauma to make sorts, but I don't really know because I never really dug deep into it.
What was happening in your country?
I do believe we had like small conflicts of fights and breakouts of like gang fights. So as to say, we kind of moved away because we didn't feel safe, and now I feel like we feel more safe.
What are some of the things you struggle with as an immigrant and refugee that other immigrants and refugees can possibly relate to?
W- our parents relying on us to like help them live a better life, as all their life they've lived in Asia or like any other country that isn't used to this American lifestyle. I feel like we are put on a pedestal, right? A pressure of sorts that we have to help them because we are the next generation and like we'll be continuing living in the United States. And as such, I feel like that's a main issue because like there's so much stress and like build up that other people don't see that kids and teens alike will struggle with and eventually develop depression because of sorts. And like the systems in place that helps us aren't really that great, as the financial gain isn't that helpful to us. Like we have to work multiple jobs to even stay afloat.
Do you think immigrants and refugees in Aurora, Colorado are receiving enough assistance?
No. Well, yes, since I wish I could help, but like, as I said, I'm a fourth generation with barely any knowledge of my own language, as I was never taught it. And even when I was taught it, I feel like I just couldn't understand it because the dialects were so weird and that English was just a much easier terminology and like language to underuse. And so I've had job offerings for helping immigrants migrate to the United States easier, but I just feel like I failed them because I can't speak the language of sorts.
Yeah. Can you think of any ways that someone who is an immigrant can help immigrants and refugees?
Well, the best way that they can help them is honestly by teaching them English, because English is by far the most vital step. Once you understand English, everything will fall naturally into pieces, which what I think is more important because yes, they do need to understand, you do need to understand their natural language, but if there's a medium between the two, if they can somewhat understand you, then you've already helped them more than enough, because that means they can communicate with others about their problems. And you can give them financial aid by going to non-profit organizations who donate to immigration services.
You have anything else you want to say in there?
No, well, I just want to say something. If you have like an immigrant or refugee friend, I want you to reach out to them and talk to them about like their heritage and what they think about it. Because like, I don't speak for others, but for myself and my family, we rarely talk about our heritage unless it's like a special day of the month, because like we do still celebrate it, as I am Buddhist, but I don't feel like I am in the typical sense Buddhist, because like I don't feel like I connect to the religion as my mother or older brother do, since I've just been like, I feel like I've just been whitewashed, and I want people who have immigrant or refugee friends to just like ask them about it.
Would you like me to ask you about it more?
No, I think, well, I think you have asked me about it, but like I can't really say much because like I myself know that I don't want to learn about my culture more as such, because I feel like I'm more into the American culture than my own culture, because like I feel like as a whole, I feel like I'm more American because that's what I identify as. That's my nationality, and I'm proud to be an American.
That concludes my questions.
After letting all of my observations and interviews marinate in my head for a while, I came to some assumed conclusions. First and foremost, I'm not 100% certain of any of this information. As an objective observer, I could only make educated guesses and assumptions based on the information I was provided with from both of my interviews and what I observed. I found that immigrants in Aurora, Colorado are starving, not only starving of food, but starving of finances, support, housing, and education. Diana and Lanese both supported these claims. In an unrecorded interview I had with Diana, she says the immigrants and refugees are in need of food, employment, and housing. There are people fleeing their countries with nothing but some clothes. They need help catching their footing in the United States, especially the people who aren't English speakers, as stated by Lanese in his interview segment. He gives a greater explanation as to why immigrants and refugees who don't speak English need the most help when immigrating. But in short, he pretty much says they can't speak English, they can't understand what's going on around them while they're migrating, which can lead to immense confusion and misdirection. He says that learning English as an immigrant is one of the biggest battles, because when you're unable to understand the people helping you integrate into a society, you're confused on all aspects of their life and norms. Plus, you can't even converse with anyone to get help because of language barriers. I can imagine how lost anyone would feel going through that. This connects to the lack of education these people face. Families are struggling to integrate into American society because of language barriers. Children are unable to attend schools because of the lack of documentation. These people aren't getting an adequate education in some parts of the immigrant and refugee population. But even college students immigrating to study abroad experience a lack of education or information, as Diana states in her recorded interview. She states in this segment of the interview that from her experience as an immigrant herself, being informed was really taken for granted by U.S. citizens. Something you'd probably think is common knowledge in the United States is likely different in other countries. She explains that for the first month of her living in an apartment, being new to the United States and the state of Colorado, she slept on the floor because she wasn't properly informed that the apartment didn't come already furnished. Everything was weird and new to her. Without guidance or being properly informed, like many immigrant students aren't, according to Diana, there were also students sleeping in the airport because they didn't know how to contact someone to pick them up, and students sleeping in their classrooms because they were unable to get the keys to their dorms or apartments. It felt like a terrible decision to move to the United States, Diana stated, but she doesn't regret it. It was the same for Lanese. His family felt lost, he says. His family had a hard time learning English and adjusting to the new norms and processes because of their limited English knowledge. Because being informed is taken for granted by most of us. This gave me a new perspective on how hard life could be for the immigrant and refugee population just from not being intelligible to your surroundings. Education accessibility isn't the only thing the immigrants and refugee population in Aurora are facing. Another struggle they seem to experience quite often is unemployment. As observed earlier, recommended by Diana, at the Home Depot, there was a small crowd of what I could assume are refugees and immigrants looking for work, according to Diana. I observed them waiting along the side of the Home Depot parking lot for about an hour before being picked up randomly by the surrounding pickup trucks to presumably work. Having to wait at the side of a parking lot for work isn't a very reliable source of income. Diana says in the unrecorded interview, some days there wouldn't be enough work for even the smaller crowds. Some people had to miss out on the valuable money for themselves and their families. Diana's organization, Rocky Mountain Welcome Center, also provides rental assistance for refugees and immigrant families who need it. Like the men and women, immigrants / refugees who can't get work some days are undocumented, possibly misinformed, and maybe late or missing rent. She talked about how often her and the organization had to help families remain housed because they're unable to qualify for government assistance or even work. These immigrants and refugees in Aurora, Colorado, documented or undocumented, have a harder time obtaining employment as compared to U.S. citizens. Their lack of documentation won't allow them to legally obtain a tax-paying job, even when they are documented. According to Diana and some of my own background observations, immigrants and refugees also get slandered and denied employment merely because they aren't from the United States. It's straight up discrimination. With the growing population and similarly growing unemployment rate of the refugee and immigrant population in Aurora comes housing accessibility. Housing accessibility and assistance is proving to be more and more difficult to obtain for the growing immigrant and refugee population in Aurora. Lack of employment leads to lack of enough funding to stay housed independently. The lack of documentation can lead to the lack of supporting government resources because they can't legally qualify for them without citizenship or residency. Also, according to Diana, in Diana's interview, she explains this in a much more thorough and detailed manner. They can't go back to their home countries, they need money. According to her, immigrants aren't lazy, they need financial housing assistance but are unable to qualify for it because of their lack of residency. Diana also states that some families are couch crashing and homeless because they're unable to acquire housing. Being homeless is already an extremely difficult spot to be in, but it can get a bit worse with the social imperceptibility that follows, among other things. Social imperceptibility, a phrase I think I made up, which means to be invisible, not thought of, ignored, or looked over in society. Homeless people in the United States are seen as a problem that everyone wants to solve, but never really care enough to really put a stop to, with being ignored, trying to find documentation, work, and education, even just food through government assistance, then to become/remain homeless creates more issues for the population, like a higher death rate to disease and sickness, more educational gaps as their children are likely unable to attend school with not having any proof of residency. Imperceptibility is possibly worse than all of these struggles I discussed earlier, because not only are you not heard of due to the language barrier or lack of care from the state and national government, but now you aren't even seen. Your needs aren't perceived or met by the public majority, which could delay any improvement of your situation. As of right now, refugee and immigration in Aurora are under intense scrutiny because of a huge false news coverage of an apartment hijacking by Venezuelan immigrant gang members, as shown in Diana's interview, where she explains how hard it is to get jobs and even fit into society in Aurora because of the false narrative created in the news. She even fact-checked the information through her connections to the Aurora Police Department because of the insane amount of coverage on that false story.
There's been a suggestion that because of this gang in particular, that Aurora police won't even go to this complex. They're saying that that is flatly false.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying. They're saying, in fact, they actually know this to be a nuisance property, which means that they increase patrols and that they are actually there all the time.
All right, we'll continue to follow what's going on there. Angeline, thank you very much.
Venezuelans feel more uncomfortable and unseen and are being more discriminated against for being Venezuelan. Finally, I wanted to go into food insecurity. Food insecurity among immigrant students is kind of common. From my immigrant friends that I've met throughout high school in the Aurora metro region, eating most of your meals at school as an immigrant is quite common due to the socioeconomic statuses and lack of government assistance in the immigrant and refugee student population. Reliving my observation on Dayton and Colfax, the food distribution center was there. Me, being the intelligent being I am, connected some dots and some past experiences to come to an educated wish of sorts that joins together nicely with my claim. There's been a couple of times I drove down Dayton, I saw a hoarded line of ethnic-looking people formed in front of an empty parking lot and a truck of canned goods and sealed food. They seemed eager to get their share of the free food. I asked someone in line once if the food was free. They confirmed that it was free. From the past observation and my more recent experience with the crossroad, I discovered that the people on the corner are likely to be waiting for their next food drive or waiting for the nearby food distribution center to open. These people need food. With inflating prices and the immigrant/refugee unemployment rate growing, food is becoming increasingly scarce and unaffordable for the new immigrant and refugee populations looking to make a living in the United States. These people, these students, these families need cheaper, more affordable food.
A tender heart that bled your heart, my head, my words on pen and paper used to find out.
Today we migrated between interviews, observations, thoughts, and emotions alongside logic and a bit of overthinking to get to this point. I discovered so much on this adventurous study of the immigrant and refugee population in Aurora. I found that the people of this population need food, need housing, need better education accessibility, are somewhat socially imperceptible and visible amongst the society, and have a harder time dealing with unemployment and their population through my observations and interviews. Although I was given close to a month to observe, interview, write down notes, and write my essay for this ethnology writing prompt, I was only able to observe very briefly on both occasions that I did so. I was also unable to conduct more interviews out of fear of missing the due date and also wanting to be done with this assignment. No offense to anybody. So the information from my interviews aren't 100% accurate, at least not to my knowledge. Take everything said in this paper with a grain of salt. Some of this information can be outdated in the distant and or near future. There weren't many subtopics I could have investigated more, like mental health, refugee crises, death rate, etc. There was very little internet research done for this project. All contextual evidence presented is from objective observation, subjective observation, and community interviews. I know my essay hasn't even cracked the glass on the day-to-day struggles immigrants and refugees face in Aurora, and I could always come back to this subject matter without a due date to do more field research, to find more exact or accurate depictions for my thesis. But for now, this is what I have to present. Now that all is said and done, what do you think about the assistance the immigrants and refugees receive in Aurora, Colorado?